Hi, Dr. Sasse here from Sasse Surgical, and I just wanted to answer a few questions that had come my way over the last few weeks regarding drugs to treat obesity and excess weight, and new drugs in particular, and just where we are in the landscape overall. So many of you might have seen headlines that described what seemed to really catch on in the media, which is that there's a game-changing new drug, which is called Wegovy, W-E-G-O-V-Y. This is a weekly injectable drug that has already been around in the marketplace for treating type 2 diabetes, called semaglutide. And so it's gotten FDA approval, and we'll see the rollout here coming soon, that this will be something we can prescribe with FDA approval for treating obesity. We are certainly grateful for more tools in treating this dreadful epidemic. As you've heard, if you've watched other of my podcasts and broadcasts, obesity is a terrible disease that is afflicting far too many wonderful people, and it stems from huge changes in the environment and food supply that are intersecting with our genome, with our genetic template. And this is going to take a real effort to combat it. But we need every tool in the box in order to be successful at helping people restore their life expectancy and their health. So we use all of the drugs that are currently available. We wish there were better ones. And we, of course, employ surgery, which has been the most effective treatment. But ultimately, in the long term, we need to find preventive strategies that really get at the root cause. So I have spoken about that and written on that subject, so more about that in other venues. But let's talk a little bit about the drugs that are available today. So let's start with Wigoby, since it is a new drug. I guess the first question is this truly a game-changing drug or not? The reason why the moniker of game changer has stuck in the kind of frenzied media coverage is that the FDA critical trial that is done to assess its effectiveness demonstrated that it was about 2 times more effective than other weight loss medications that have come around so far, which does sound pretty great. And I am extremely hopeful that that is the case, that we are going to see 12 and 15% weight loss with the use of this drug. But there are reasons to be a little bit cautious and a little bit skeptical with respect to those results. So why do I say that? Well, the first reason is that this drug is not a new mechanism. This is not some brand new thought about how to change metabolism and body weight. This is what some people call a Me Too drug, meaning that it works in the exact same way as another drug that's already on the market, which is called Saxenda. And both of these drugs are what are called GLP-1 analogs. That means that there's a special hormone called GLP-1. And why do we know so much about it? We know so much about it because it is one of many hormones which are activated after weight loss surgery. So in metabolic surgery, the tissues are changed, and one of the effects that one can measure right away is that GLP-1 goes up and it stays up over the long term. So GLP-1 is associated with reduced appetite, it's associated with reduced circulating blood sugar, and it seems to be associated with some reduction in the processes that cause weight gain. So ultimately, we do see some significant weight loss over time, typically on the order of about 6% of body weight. And so we think that this one hormone avenue is one piece of the pie that explains why weight loss surgery is so effective at changing the whole family of hormones. So Wegovy comes along, and it is another GLP-1 analog. So it works by the same mechanism. And so it's not necessarily predicted that it would be twice as effective as another GLP-1 analog, since it works in the same way. So what's not yet been done is any sort of understanding or testing or investigation of how the two drugs might be different and why they might be activating, for example, some additional hormones, or perhaps there are analogs of GLP-1 that we don't really know about yet that are also active at improving metabolism and reducing body weight, and that we just haven't fleshed that out yet. It's also quite possible that the pivotal FDA trial is just one data point, and that once we have a lot of data with millions of people or hundreds of thousands of people, that we will see that it reverts to the mean, the average of what we know GLP-1 agonists do, which is about half of what this one trial reported. So time will tell, but it is not a game changer in terms of mechanism. And the body of data is certainly not yet game-changing, although it looks very encouraging. Lastly, I'll just comment that it's also very expensive, like the last few drugs that have come out. The pharmaceutical folks are needing to price them very high in order to recoup their investments, as they say, during the time period when they have the patents and can recoup that money. So the first sort of indications are that this is a drug that's going to cost about $1,200 per month, and that insurance plans are generally not going to cover it. So that's a little frustrating. There may be mechanisms where someone can get a coupon card or some sort of help from the company to make it more affordable, but in practice our clinic finds that that's usually not something that most people are able to access. So they're able to kind of keep some boundaries around that expense. So time will tell, but Wegovy is a new drug. It's an injectable drug. It's an expensive drug, but for those who can access it, I'm hopeful that it'll be a more effective drug. Its analog, the drug that's very similar to it, is called Saxenda, which is also an injectable drug, which is a daily injectable. It too is a GLP-1 agonist. It too is very expensive still, but we do see significant, if modest, weight loss results with it. Of course, people need to keep taking these drugs long term. And then the other drugs, the sort of legacy drugs that we've had so far, Qsymia, which is the combination of phentermine and topiramate, continues to be pretty widely used, and I think since both of the underlying parts of it are generics, that gives more opportunity to have it be more affordable. Again, we're talking 6 or 7% body weight loss. Contrave is another drug that we use widely. It too consists of 2 subcomponent drugs, with bupropion, the antidepressant drug, being one of them. And it too, kind of modest effectiveness, and one that can be expensive depending on the market and the availability and insurance coverage for it. So we don't yet really have the kind of breakthrough drug. In my view, we do not yet have any game-changing drugs, in the sense that we don't have a new mechanism drug that is going to work differently and potentially really be game-changing to create long-term weight loss. Also, all of the pharmaceutical interventions are going to require that people keep taking it forever. So there's a certain expense, and then there's a potential for long-term side effects from daily long-term medication use. So we'll see how that shakes out. There's a recent announcement that a new drug that acts by a mechanism as what's called an amylin analog. This also is a strategy used for type 2 diabetes to lower blood sugar, and that it's working its way through the trials and the potential approval processes. So stay tuned on that one. But again, not something that's really a huge breakthrough, making use of the emerging new science. If I sound a little bit discouraged about the current availability of drugs to help us battle the obesity epidemic, it's true. I'm still a little bit discouraged about where we are. 20 years ago, I would have thought that we'd be quite a bit further ahead than we are, but I think that speaks in part to how difficult a problem this is to treat, and how difficult and expensive it is to study, and the sort of long-term nature of the endpoints. So there are a lot of factors that are going on here. But what we certainly hope in the future is that we have new drugs based on new mechanisms, and some of the really amazing emerging science around the research of metabolic surgery, which, as I am describing, affects a whole family of regulatory hormones that regulate body weight, set point, metabolism, blood sugar, triglycerides, and a host of other important aspects of metabolism. But we still need the drugs. We still like to use them, and they are better than no pharmaceuticals at all. So we hope that new ones continue to emerge, and so we'll remain positive on that. But stay tuned with respect to the effectiveness of the newest drug and what it looks like with a little bit broader experience with real patients. All right, I hope that's been a helpful overview and given you some perspective on the current state of affairs with pharmaceuticals and treating obesity, and I wish you the best of health.